Homeless man helps MrBeast. The next day, he gets the biggest surprise of his life. Imagine waking up with nothing, living on the streets with no hope. Now, imagine that a simple act of kindness could change everything. Jackson, a homeless man, helped a lost young man without expecting anything in return. But he had no idea that this young man was none other than MrBeast. The next day, his life took an unbelievable turn with the biggest surprise of his life. Get ready for an emotional story full of twists and a heartwarming ending. Watch until the end and see how a small act can transform a life forever. Leave a like, comment your favorite part, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories. The harsh reality. Jackson, a 42-year-old homeless man, had been living on the streets since he lost everything. The cold nights were his worst enemy, but hope still shone in his eyes. Every day, he sat on the same corner, watching the city move while asking for a few coins for a hot coffee. That afternoon, a young man in a hoodie and cap walked by, looking lost. Something in Jackson made him stand up and offer help, not knowing that this encounter would change his life forever. He didn't want anything in return. He just felt good helping someone. Sometimes, kindness is all we have to give. The unexpected encounter. The young man was none other than MrBeast, disguised for a secret challenge. He had lost his filming crew and needed to find his way back. Without hesitation, Jackson guided him through the streets and helped him find a taxi. Even without knowing who he was, Jackson asked for nothing in return. He simply smiled and wished him a good day. MrBeast was amazed by the generosity of this man who had nothing yet still helped others. To him, this wasn't just a simple gesture. It was something rare to find. He decided to repay that kindness in a way Jackson would never forget. MrBeast's plan. Back with his team, MrBeast couldn't get Jackson out of his head. He felt that this man deserved something extraordinary. So, he gathered his friends and came up with an epic surprise. The next day, he would return to the same corner to find Jackson again. But this time, he would bring something that would completely change the homeless man's life. MrBeast had always loved changing lives, but something about this man touched him differently. He wanted to make sure Jackson never had to sleep outside again, and that his life would change forever. His followers were also eager to see what would happen next. Returning to the corner, the next morning, Jackson was sitting in the same spot, holding a paper cup with a few coins. Suddenly, a van stopped in front of him, and MrBeast stepped out with a big smile. "Jackson," he called, surprising the man. "Remember me? Today, I want to give you something in return for your kindness yesterday." Jackson blinked, confused, not knowing he was about to experience the most unbelievable moment of his life. He looked around, trying to understand what was happening. People stopped to watch, curious to see what MrBeast was up to this time. The first surprise, MrBeast handed Jackson an envelope. Inside, there was a card with a fully paid reservation for a luxury hotel for a month. Jackson's eyes widened in disbelief. "Is this a joke?" he asked, trembling. "No, man. You helped me when you didn't have to. Now it's my turn to repay you," MrBeast replied. Jackson, overwhelmed with emotion, accepted the gift with tears in his eyes. But this was just the beginning. As Jackson held the envelope with shaky hands, he felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. He never imagined that a simple act of kindness could lead to something so grand. The dream day. Arriving at the hotel, Jackson was treated like royalty. A comfortable room, new clothes, and a hot meal awaited him. He could hardly believe what was happening. For the first time in years, he slept in a soft bed, without fear of the cold or loneliness. But while he tried to process everything, MrBeast was preparing something even bigger. Jackson looked around the room, touching the furniture to make sure it was real. Every detail felt like a distant dream. But here he was, living something that once seemed impossible. Reality was finally changing for him. The generosity test. The next day, MrBeast took Jackson to a store and gave him $1,000 to spend however he wanted. But there was a twist. A hidden camera was recording everything. Surprisingly, Jackson didn't think of himself first. He bought blankets and food for other homeless people in the area. MrBeast, watching everything, smiled. Jackson had a heart of gold. His gesture only confirmed that helping him was the right decision. He didn't just receive a second chance. He proved that true wealth was in his heart. Now, MrBeast knew he had to do even more for this man. The unbelievable offer. MrBeast took Jackson to a studio and made the most unexpected proposal. "How about working with me?" Jackson was speechless. "You have an incredible heart. I want you to help change lives by my side." Jackson hesitated. He was afraid of failing, but deep down he felt that this was the second chance he had always dreamed of. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away. For the first time, he felt like he had a purpose beyond just surviving. Accepting this job wasn't just a chance to change his life. It was a way to give back everything he had received. The first day at work, wearing new clothes and freshly showered, Jackson stepped into MrBeast's headquarters. He was greeted with applause and smiles. His first task? Helping distribute donations to families in need. Feeling useful for the first time in years, he realized he had found his purpose. He looked around, seeing the cameras, the team, and the joy of the people. For the first time, he felt like he belonged somewhere. His life, once filled with pain and uncertainty, was now full of hope and opportunities. The rebirth. Days passed, and Jackson began adapting to his new life. He learned about video production, organizing charity events, and even participated in challenges. Each day was a new lesson and a new blessing. With every smile he saw, he felt that his painful journey had finally been worth it. The man who once slept on the streets was now part of something bigger. He realized that everything he had gone through had prepared him for this moment. The darkness of his past now only served to highlight how bright his present and future were. The past returns. With MrBeast's help, Jackson reunited with his sister, whom he had lost contact with years ago. Their embrace was filled with emotion. "I thought I'd never see you again," she whispered. Jackson realized that his life had not only changed financially, but also emotionally. He was no longer alone. For the first time, his story had a happy ending, and he knew there was still so much more to live for. A bright future. Months later, Jackson was no longer homeless. He had a job, a home, and a new family alongside MrBeast's team. But his essence remained the same. He continued helping those in need. His generous heart had led him to the greatest gift of all, a second chance at life. And it all started with a simple act of kindness.